Let's call the August 19th Fire District Board meeting to order. Would you all stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. Aldrich?
Here.
Beckman?
Here.
Fox?
Here.
Verplank?
Here.
Phelps?
Here.
Beradian?
Here.
Scott? And Miller is absent.
Would you all please silence your cell phone and try to refrain from texting during the meeting? And could we have approval of the agenda, please?
I'll make it a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
I'll second that. Motion by Phelps, seconded by Aldrich to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, can we have the approval of the minutes of the July 15th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the 15th of July 2019 meeting.
I'll second.
So a motion by Fox and a second by Phelps. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Stand approved. The special meeting of July 22nd.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 22nd special meeting.
Second.
I have a question. Was there, I can't remember it, the part about Dan Fox's presentation in those minutes? I don't recall seeing it.
You didn't have a presentation.
That was after the meeting,
We just
actually.
chatted after the meeting. That wasn't in the meeting.
That wasn't in the meeting.
I just watched the video, and the meeting had not closed as far as I could see, but
Oh,
you're saying
really?
the meeting closed.
Oh.
Okay, that's interesting. Just wondering.
To rewatch it.
Is that for the 15th meeting?
The 22nd.
Second.
Oh, I wasn't
You were here, he wasn't here.
I wasn't there.
No, I watched the video.
Yeah.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Moving to public comment on agenda item only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, keep them respectful, and please address the chair.
Good afternoon. I'm John Adams. I'm president of the Friends of the Blue Star Trail. It's not totally clear to me what's on the agenda, but I think it's probably going to have something to do with the Blue Star Trail, so I'd like to make just a brief comment before we start. Just as background for this committee, the Friends of the Blue Star Trail, with the encouragement of the City Council, over the last 13 months have been in a detailed study with discussions of the Saugatuck City section of the Blue Star Trail with the city engineers and with the fire district. The study is focused on Saugatuck City, but we believe our plans will improve the safety at the north end of the Douglas Trail as well. We have been in discussions with Chief Janik for some time now on this particular plan, most recently provided since April, as well as reviewing it with Saugatuck City Council. We've also provided this plan to Douglas and to the township and all the details as well. At the last workshop, we had a lot of discussion about the trail with the City Council, and out of that meeting, they instructed us to work with the fire chief to make sure that we address any concerns that he might have. That is what we are doing. We've had a meeting with the chief since that meeting. We have put the engineers to work on a study that he asked to be done. I think I don't probably haven't a chance to look at it, but it arrived on your desk this morning. Part of that study is we went back to MDOT, and they're an important stakeholder and have their own safety standards as well. trying to find some more room for the fire trucks to get through here. We have an option in there that provides a little more room. I don't have any more comments than that because we haven't had a chance to review it, but the study is ongoing. The challenge to building a safe trail is it requires the input of a lot of different people. The input of this group is extremely important. We support the safety of emergency responders. We also deal with MDOT. They take the view of making the trail itself safe. It's got to be so wide. It's got to be so far off the road. They've got all their own rules, also geared towards safety. So the study is designed to bring those different views together and to try to find one that meets the safety needs of all the stakeholders. We're not there yet, but I believe we can do it, and we continue to work to make it happen. Hopefully this next plan will get us closer, and we look forward to the input from this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
I have a statement to read. At what point should I read it? Now or about this trail?
Well, why don't you wait until the agenda item?
What item is it? I'm a little bit confused
There's not one on
myself.
there.
There isn't a trail item on there never
And
was.
yet it just got opened up as a subject.
I
So,
understand
at
that,
what point-
but what I'm trying to say is the trail has never been on the agenda, and it might
Okay.
possibly get talked about, but
So I don't get to speak.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
If you want to do it now, go ahead and do it. You
Okay.
can either do it now, or
I'll just say my piece now then, because I'm sure
The fire
it'll
board
get...
comments.
Yeah, no, it's too long for that. I wrote it because I'm not an eloquent writer, and I was afraid I'd get too crazy, so I have to read it. I'm sorry. Okay. I think there's a problem when a fire board member is able to cleverly orchestrate our agenda with announcing to come to our board meeting today. Started with an editorial that clearly looked as if he were representing fire board. Wrong. Somewhat later, it was corrected to be his opinion, but it was already out there, thus the word orchestrated. It went on to social media by Saugatuck folk, not a coincidence. So that cemented this group being here today. Now we are with a room full of people on an item that never should have hit this agenda in the first place. Let me continue. As a fellow board member of this board, I believe this is for Saugatuck City and the Friends of the Blue Star to work out on an issue of the fire board. Furthermore, we are all signed by bylaws after the fiasco with the Township IFC code issue because a board member then had a personal agenda. Our chair drove this in order to handle said person. We all signed the bylaws again. Now we have the same situation, only this time with Saugatuck reps. The personal agenda of Saugatuck has been brought into this board as witnessed by the crowd here tonight. And also as witnessed inappropriately at the July 22nd specially called meeting that was supposed to be about the retro boat situation. It was not a regular fire board meeting. In fact, 3 of 7 people were missing. The vote part ended, and then the same board member led a discussion for a long time, lengthy, about the trail and its safety. It came with full sets of drawings, drama about what might happen, disasters and all. There was sarcasm about the plan from the Saugatuck reps, the Friends being discussed as if they were the enemy and more. I encourage folks to pull up that meeting from the website. It is an example of group persuasion at its best and a really poor example of what should have been professionals in a meeting. Folks at Douglas were in there as well, for example. Let's also note that this is not on the agenda of that meeting or posted publicly, yet it went on for 45 minutes. It wasn't just a council comment, but a very formal pre-done presentation. Our chair, a Saugatuck rep, did not stop it or ask for the topic to go to the next board meeting, but relished in it. In my opinion, Saugatuck reps broke the bylaws in a big way. We are not to represent agendas of our cities. I wish the other 3 members could have been there to contain this wrong from happening. Influence was made at the meeting about the trail, no matter how you look at it. Besides the bylaws being broken, I feel this is not the place of this board, bystanders, interested parties, or anyone else to decide what's safe and what isn't. They merely have opinions, not expertise. It's for the fire department to do, not for us on the board to analyze, bring to our meetings, or influence. Yes, risk reduction is a mission. And it's one that's been handled beautifully by our fire department, beyond our wildest expectations, by our chief and his team to the point of awards and honors. We have no reason to distrust that now. Since when does a fire board decide what is safe and what is not? What will we dictate next? It's for the guys here and their chief to make recommendations to decide what might put them in danger. We had people on the retro boat issue talking boats that don't know boats, and we members all stood for how ridiculous that was. And yet now we have non-fire people talking what's safe and what isn't, drawings and all. Also ridiculous. Let the fire chief and his team do their job, review and recommend. Let them and the Friends meet together, work things out, then it goes to Saugatuck City for final approval or not approval. The buck stops there. Don't use this board as a pawn in this game. It is not Douglas or Township issue, and it's certainly not a fire board issue. It's for the city of Saugatuck and the Friends to do so or not do. We are using valuable fire people on this, and it should not be like that. This letter was written to try to get the fire board back to basics and principles we all agreed to, honoring our bylaws and letting the chief do his job without undue oversight by us. And that's my statement. And I'd like it to be put into the minutes.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, moving on. We have a request for payment.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the payments of $141,478.02.
I'll support.
Is there any discussion?
I was wondering about, lighting retro. Are we talking about that? I mean,
Yeah.
Can we bring that up? What is that?
That was the bill from Mecoff Greg, was it the lights or?
The license downstairs.
So we had converted all the fluorescence tubes and lighting into LED. So it was a process where we submitted a bill and then we got a rebate for consumers based on their rebate plan.
Oh, okay.
So it's a rough
Yeah,
fit
okay.
of fixtures for all the entire buildings, back building this way.
And that took a long time, and then now we're just getting the bill, right?
Rebate, yeah, it took a while.
Okay, thank you.
I had one just quick about the aero board install. I assume that means it has to be installed on the truck that takes it out to the highway.
That's correct. One of the tankers, we have an aero board that comes up on
Okay.
both tankers now.
Okay.
Right.
So, wow, that's a lot, but it's probably hard to anchor that thing down.
And, you know, and a grant paid for half of that, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of paying the
Roll
bill
call.
of $141,478, $141,478.02. Would you please call the roll for this?
Absolutely. Phelps?
Yes.
Beckman?
Yes.
Aldrich?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Verplank?
Yes.
And Maria?
Yes.
Okay, Peter, do we have a financial report?
As you can see, there's not much revenue that's been collected. It doesn't come until after Christmas. The expenses are in line. So far, we've spent 8.25% of our budget that was on the operating. I don't know, does anybody have any particular questions on any line item or?
Well, special events is out of whack. Quite a bit. Operating supplies, I guess when I see them on the right column,
Yeah.
in the 30s, and we should be,
Yeah, but special
The 10.
events, we had 4th of July, Venetian, the month of July, so those were the high ones.
are we ever recouping anything we talked about?
Not with those events, because they're nonprofit events, and Venetian, 4th of July, and Halloween are high ratio of responders to the public. It's a costly item. And then it'll tail, just flatline.
So we hit it early, a lot of it hit
Correct.
early.
on, the open house.
Oh, National Night Out,
No, but we haven't taken the open house off of
Right.
the list of special events.
I had a question on that.
That should catch up attention.
Why did we take that off? You mean the October?
We decided that we were gonna, use the National Night Out as our open house, and then do something special, something else to start fire prevention.
It was decided at that special meeting, July
That
25th.
makes sense to me.
That special meeting had a lot of coverage.
I think the concern, Eric, was the volume of special events and short compressed time frame. I had voiced, you know, we love the whole National Night Out event and hope to encompass all police and fire into that. And then I think we've got to go right back into taking a person out of essentially responding, because it takes them 2 weeks to prepare for the open house. We thought, why not concentrate on one or the other? And since the police were involved, we decided National Night Out might be a better avenue.
I think it's a great idea to consolidate.
It's a lot of work and a lot of time.
It was a lot different when we used to get all the free fish and
Right.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's turned into a little expense now.
Yeah.
And the open house was on there.
Yeah, so I did see it.
Moving on, fire chief, comment, incident reports. Eric, go
Yeah,
ahead.
good.
Just hoping you all like my new uniform I'm proposing, a more casual affair. Griffin, you're laughing at me.
I'm not laughing at all. I'm wishing I was there with you. I'm over here sweating.
Eric, I'm sorry for the delay. Eric is setting this up. As you know, we were on a house fire this afternoon. Interesting, it was a rental house with 2 occupancies in it, which was in Fenville, not our district, you know, which is a bit of an illegal occupancy. People were asleep, neighbors saw the fire, and got the people out. Everybody was safe. Balloon construction, so the fire went from outside to the attic. I was there, it marked 15 minutes, and it was blowing pretty good. That's how fast these fires go, and that's full legacy construction, which is 2x4s as we know it, and dimensional lumber, not lightweight construction. So, let me see if I can, while Eric's doing that, commuter risk reduction, for those of you that are kind of new to the audience, we keep track of the fatal fires in Michigan. Deputy Chief Mandels and I are on a statewide My Prevention Task Force, and our goal is to reduce or eliminate fire deaths in Michigan. Unfortunately, we've had 2 since last month, so we're up to 57 fires with deaths in Michigan. Something that we like to let people know about. Chief's comments, and I'm going to let Stacy, our township rep, bring this up under board comments. I am very happy to report to the audience that the International Fire Code has been reinstated in its entirety. A cost recovery ordinance has been reinstated, so that certainly will make it easier. You'll see one of the things on the agenda, how reinstating that will make things easier. It would eliminate resolutions, and we're all reaching for, let's work together, right? That's why you're here. And having one district-wide fire code is what has been in place since 2000. So bringing that back in is best for all of us. So Eric is going to be pulling those up, and Eric, I'm kind of running out of subject matter. Other than we could talk about the Hawaiian shirt that...
Yeah, so I wearing that on the boat the other day.
So you can see from the screen over here, we'll get it up on these screens, July was near record month, one short, 115 calls for the end of July. So you can see how that, the biggest time of the year certainly is July. And you can see we're up almost 5% in calls. That's what's important for the audience. You know, every month we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. Well, when we used to have 200 calls, that didn't mean anything. When you have 500 or 600 calls, all of a sudden it becomes a bigger deal. So we're up about nearly 5% on calls. All right?
And until
Yes.
a few hours ago, for the month of August, we are up to 622.
We're up to 622. Okay, you didn't do that in between the fire?
He took a shower, can you
Yeah,
believe it?
yeah, it must be nice. For the audience, this shows the most common days of the week, the highest call volume, no surprise, Friday and Saturday. Biggest days. Time of the day has always been in the fire district during the day. That's why the fire district had to staff heavier during the day than other agencies. Sagatuck is kind of a different response area than the rest of Allegan County. This shows type of calls. Now you'll see Series 100, 2 fires, not necessarily fires in our jurisdiction. For example, 2018, of all of our calls, 0.4% were fires in our district. Think about that. About 5 calls in our fire district that were actual structure fires. The other 25 were mutual aid. That's pretty good. This just shows incident type. Motor vehicle incidents are significant in our area because of 196. This just shows activity.
Which is actually getting better.
Actually getting better, correct. This just shows a bar graph that shows by the months. Okay, Eric? And this shows a special event activity. You can see from 17 and 18, we're over 50 special events. And that's what's, no complaints, that's what's a challenge to staff along with everything else, plus fun. We went over budget on our special events twice last year. Overlapping calls is something the public wants to know about. For example, today, 3 calls at one time. Fire, medical, one at Griffin's office. So that's what we have to staff, and that's why there's mutual aid. And that's one reason, thank God for you, you pay what you pay for taxes, because we have never not responded to a call. And I can name fire departments that have actually said, sorry, no one's available. Sagatuck has never done that, and it won't as long as I'm around. Shows activity in our areas within the district, specifically geographic, and then it also includes I-196. This is something that we like to see the numbers low. We felt Grace of Douglas, the board felt Grace of Douglas was using us for lift assist and there was no medical need, so we eliminated running priority 3s. They're a for-profit agency, and their policy had changed where they weren't allowed to pick up somebody who fell down, so our guys had to go there at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, pick somebody up off the floor, then go back home and go to bed, get up, 7 o'clock, come in. We eliminated that. Just something to show where the tax dollars go based on the area. Square miles, pretty self-explanatory. Mutual aid, we give more than we receive. And that's something I'm glad of in this fire department.
And it's basically because we have mutual agreements with 5 other departments, so the nature of that beast would be that we give more than we take. So.
This just shows personnel activity. Shows what unit went where. And this shows protected property values. For example, you have a gas leak in a building that is mitigated. That's considered, that building gets listed on this, something that ISO recommended we do. 5 minutes and 19 seconds, under 6 minutes response in our area is extraordinary. We're very proud of that. And this is priority 1 and 2s in our area, shows we're 291 as of the end of July. Shows fireboard activity.
That's it.
Thank you. That concludes my chief's comments.
Moving on to unfinished business, we have a agenda item I'm sorry, I don't know what this is about.
John, where's John?
John's downstairs.
Okay, what this is about, forgive me, again, we're behind. And would you ask John, I need those ordinances?
Yep.
So what this was a situation where we had a person that was using us 3 or 4 times per week for lift assist, to a point of taxing emergency services, because it's not just the fire department, it's the police department, and it's AMR, our transport company. To the nature, one of the calls was, I lost my glasses, I can't find my glasses, I'm locked out of the door. We did not see this improving, as a matter of fact, the calls in 3 months were like 62 calls. We felt it was an abuse of the system. So we reached out to some other agencies as directed by the board to find out what do they do. And they had resolutions crafted. Here's the good part. When the township reinstated the ordinance, it'll actually be reinstated in the next 20 days. That allowed us to get back to, thank you, that allowed us to get back to our ordinances that are universal, that are the same language in all 3 cities. Here's the bottom line. If there's more than 5 calls in 30 days, we can go to that person and say, sorry, you're going to get a bill for this. No one likes cost recovery, especially as chief, but the taxpayer shouldn't be funding some of the stuff when we see a person who's not getting help. So the board was very concerned about this. Shall we apply cost? The cost recovery ordinance says may. So it gives us discretion as an agency to bill or not bill. And that's the way the cost recovery has been handled as long as I've been around. So my suggestion, recommendation of the board is use the existing language that's in the cost recovery that the township will be reinstating and forego the resolution. It's another layer of bureaucracy, another piece of paperwork, completely unnecessary because it is covered in all 3 cities' ordinance because they mirror one another. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay? So I don't want to bore you all with it. Trust me, you have the ability to do it. And you don't have to bill somebody. We use our cost recovery team. Does it fit the criteria? Was it preventable? Was it illegal? Is this person truly need a need? Are we being used as go-to people? You know, think about the cost of this. With AMR responding, the police, and then us. You're talking about $1,200 every time we pick up the phone. So
What's the roll call vote?
the roll call vote, if I may, was on the resolution. My suggestion is,
Don't worry about it now.
and I didn't know at the time when township would get through the cost recovery, and it's already in the works. So I can read you the ordinance, I can send it to you, but it does provide language, and the best part is it gives us discretion on shall versus may. We don't always have to do it, because sometimes you need to go there 5 times a month. Questions?
Well, I think in this particular case with the woman who had all of the calls, she's an alcoholic, but she's not in treatment, and I think that's the difference. Somebody that's in treatment and maybe has a life-ending disease or that with a lot of lip assist is one thing, but a person who is receiving no treatment and we're enabling her or him or whoever, that really draws the line at some point.
Can I just read this one short section? So in all the ordinances, all three municipalities, this is what it says: excessive requests for emergency assistance. Any request for emergency assistance made for a particular location or premises if emergency assistance has been provided to that location or premises more than 5 times in the preceding 30 days. So that's what it's about.
Covers it.
Right. It's one of the qualifiers for cost recovery.
And so that's adopted by the municipalities
Yes,
because
sir.
they adopted the National
Correct.
Fire Code.
Right. It's been in place in Douglas and Saugatuck. It was changed 2 years ago. Now it will be reinstated. The beauty is it's all the same in all 3 jurisdictions.
I like simplicity, I like it.
Uh-oh.
We
Yes,
don't need
ma'am.
it twice, we don't need another resolution.
Right.
All right, so,
Do we need to do anything on that?
no, we
The
don't.
direction is, I suggest the direction would be the board directly to follow the cost recovery ordinance and use the discretion we've always done. And forego resolution.
I don't see where we need to vote on anything.
Okay.
All right, moving on, new business, emergency vehicle response times across the Blue Star. This is supposed to be a bridge. And Dan, you asked for this to be on the agenda, so.
I did. And before I begin, and I would have said this even without being slapped around by Cash. Not by name, but everyone knows.
I used your name once.
I know. I was going to say this anyway, and I owe the group, I owe the trail folks an apology. I want to be clear, though, with what you called an editorial was actually a letter to the editor, 2 different things. And that letter was written without my fire board byline or anything of the kind. And the suggestion I made in there was the suggestion I made to the chair for an agenda item. I want to be clear on this because this bears on whether there was some kind of Saugatuck agenda, okay? Saugatuck-driven agenda, whatever. The chair said to me, that is not going to be an agenda item now or in the future. The fire board has no jurisdiction over the infrastructure being discussed, period.
I got that, I understood that.
And that's why that
And yet they're all here and
well,
getting
but
their
understand,
anyway.
I'll blame, where's Scott? I saw him come in earlier.
Here, the
Yeah.
other guy with the Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, I'll blame Scott because you're allowed 1 letter. By the time I could have corrected that, I was inside my, you only get 1 letter kind of deal. So that's where the kind of miscommunication, misinformation, so on and so forth comes in. But I was within my rights to write that letter. I would not have been within my rights to have had it become an agenda item, and that was policed by the other Saugatuck person saying, you can't do that, we can't do that. What is on the agenda now, and I would submit to you, given the mission that we've all subscribed to, and the oath we take that has to do with the mission, that has directly to do with community response, or risk reduction, is relevant, and therefore the information, and that's all it is information. There's no motion in this. The word TRAIL will not be mentioned by me. It's not in the subject matter. It's not on the table as far as I'm concerned. Anybody else can bring anything else. I'm not going to bring that up. I'm not going to speak to it. The issue and information that I think this board ought to, and by rights really would be delinquent in our duties if we didn't discuss, comes about as a result of 3 sort of sources of information. The first of them is anecdotal information, comments from firefighters, private conversations, about response times over the Blue Star Bridge and issues with those response times and slower than desired response in certain instances related to the bridge. I've had those conversations. Others have had those conversations. They've been reported to me, whatever. So that's one piece of information. The second piece of information, which I don't think we've had, I know I haven't seen it here, I've seen the information before, is an incident report from the 31st of July involving a priority 1 response on the part of the Allegan County Sheriff's Department over the bridge in response to a call for a 4-year-old child either under the water or lost somehow south of Oval Beach. And as a result, from this end, it's going south on the bridge. That sheriff's deputy documented that incident report. Can you put that up or not?
Can you change it to the RAD computer here?
What do you
Just
expect?
on the front of the amp, change it to SAT cable. Other than that.
And while you're doing this, the reason why I let John Adams speak was I didn't know if the trail would come up in conversation with this agenda item, so I didn't want to not let him speak and then have it come up and then say, see, I told you it was on the agenda. That's why I let him speak.
So the comment, you can see, we're a little too big, yeah. That's the deputy's write-up, and he speaks directly to emergency response difficult in the area immediately south of the bridge where the 2 lanes come together. He crossed over out of the vehicle lanes because the vehicle lanes had traffic going in both directions, and when that's the case, if everybody stops,
Nowhere to go.
you can't get through it. So he made the judgment, again, on the premise of looking for a 4-year-old. And by the way, that call was, while he was in process, that he got the clear on that call. The kid had been found. He was just lost, fortunately. So, again, I think that information belongs in front of this group, since we face the same kinds of issues. The last of the 3 pieces of information, and then I'll shut up, is a short video, a 1-minute video, that kind of puts sound and motion and whatever to this issue. And it became available here, I think, a little over a month ago or whatever. This is a call that the truck here, you're in the, you're literally behind the driver of 2112, which is the large pumper that with the bumper that's about my eyeball height off the pavement. As he proceeds southbound over the bridge, he's moving from north to the south on a priority 1 call, so every little boy's dream, you get to be in a fire truck with the lights and siren going, and you can watch what happens as he moves to go across, and then we'll show it a second time and stop and talk about a couple of things. So if you can, just play it through.
All units in response party 3 at this time. Clear Central, all incoming in to Oak Street, priority 3 at this time. Thank you for your time. 518 clear on priority 3.
Okay. As you see at the end of that, the all clear call came in, so the siren went off. But if we go back through it, there are just 3 points that I think are worth making. So you can go and stop it anytime, right about now. I think it's worth noting the position of the fire truck relative to the lanes on that bridge. It's a big truck, it's already occupying half of the center lane on the bridge, and there's nobody immediately in its way on the right-hand side. So keep going. Okay, right there, Chris, if you would. He's already started to slow down for 2 reasons. One, because he's down to 2 lanes, and 2, because rightly sees traffic ahead, both left and right. And what I ask you to watch, kind of the remainder of this, is how much slower that truck gets as he tries to figure out what he's going to do, how he's going to get through there, if he's going to get through there, if it's going to come to a dead stop. So go ahead.
And also, that car has passed 3 points where he could have pulled out. And he's so shook because he's got a fire truck behind him that he doesn't see that he can pull over in.
One of the fire guys said to me, it's you know, it's not a shot on civilians. People freeze. They just freeze when the lights and the siren are behind them, and they've been told a million times to pull to the left or whatever, to pull to the right or whatever. All that kind of, for a lot of people, just goes out the window and you just slam on the brakes.
Well, what does the law say? What does the law say?
Yield.
Lights and sirens. We got 2 sheriffs right here, right? You get over
Could I
it
ask a question?
as soon as possible.
Just a minute.
No, I can't ask a question.
Well, would you
Oh,
wait one moment?
okay.
Mike, could you answer that question for me? What's the
You're
law?
to yield to the right.
All right.
As soon as possible, right? I mean,
Yes.
So he passed 3 places where he could have yielded to, right? Okay, Brenda?
Does this video continue onto Ferry and Park Street? Because there's no place for people to move off there. I mean, are we considering that too? If it's going to this isn't the one going to the Oval Beach for the lost child where we have no lifeguards. This is a different one, right?
Yes, it is. This is way before that, sometime before that.
But I mean, let's look at everywhere they go and how slow it is. There's no place on those other streets.
I agree with you.
I know
but
I'm not supposed to talk.
No, I'm fine,
That's
but this is a public forum. We want interaction.
Okay, Greg has an answer for that.
Please, this is not a criticism of the Blue Star. You can show all the plans you want, have all the engineering you want. And this is the real deal. This is what can happen. What we have to do is mitigate this. We need to find a way to work together to minimize this. It is not the Friends of the Blue Star's fault that they have restrictions and regulations placed upon them. They're doing what they can do. We've got to find a way through this. I inherited this mess, okay? And we've been silent about it, which we will continue to do best we can. We can't jump the curb, we can't, people can't get out of the way. As been identified, what happens is people don't hear us till last minute, and then all of a sudden you hear this blaring siren, and you look in the rearview mirror and see these lights and this 20-ton truck upon them, and they hit the brakes most of the time.
Thank heavens that car kept on going.
Well, he stops and then he keeps moving.
Well, what's disturbing is this weekend, there were a line of cars. I mean, this is one guy.
I guess the most important thing I'm trying to make is, we're not trying to pick on anybody or anything, we're just trying to show you one real-life example of what happened,
And it's only, I know I'm out of order, I'm sorry.
The reason, in terms of information to the board, the reason to get the information out and amongst us to be processed however you choose to process it, is that 2/3 of the service area for which we're responsible, including all of Douglas, a significant portion of the township, and everything on the west side of the river that's Saugatuck,
Which is where
lies south of that point. So I understand what you're saying about Ferry Street and what have you, but this relates to literally 2/3 of our service area. So if there's a service response, an emergency response time issue that relates to 2/3 of our service area, I think we need to know about it, think about it, talk about it. I don't have a solution to it. I would not offer a solution to it. You know, honestly, it's not my business. It's not our business. It's not our infrastructure. Saugatuck's either. I don't have the answer, but I think we are wise to be aware of what's going on and to consider it in light of our mission and our responsibilities to our constituencies and to each other's constituencies to have this aired and have it.
We're not the experts, and you're just trying to present safety, and it is up to him. And when Douglas, for example, had that issue, our other manager, a city manager, widened the lane, and I know it's not a perfect solution, but we worked with it, and they can get through on that other part. And that's what, all we're saying is, it's for, all I was saying is it's for this chief and his guys to figure out what they can live with and what they can't, not for us to present videos that scare the heck out of everybody and so on and so forth.
That's good for people to
We're
know
not,
this.
they're not the experts. None of us are.
I got a question, and this may be more personal than anything. When I moved here, we had a perfectly good 4-lane road right there, 4 lanes going over the highway, and since then, we have a turn lane over a bridge. We might be the only township in the state that has a left turn lane going over a bridge. And we've widened it down to this. At one point, it's 4 lanes. Now, your point is well taken on Ferry. That's all, and everything else, but that's what they had to work with.
Right.
They had a lot to work with here, and next thing we know, we have a safety issue. Why couldn't something be done like on South Shore Drive in Outland, where it's still 2 lanes, but there's bike lanes on both sides? I'm not an expert, I don't know. I'm just, as an outsider, looking at a 4-lane road when I moved here to now this. And nothing, Kathy, don't get defensive on Douglas. It is what it is. But what you're saying, I'm not an expert, but how'd we go from 4 lanes to this? Wasn't there, I'm sorry, a better option? Just for safety.
This is a highway that's used by 7,000 cars a day, and that comes from
MDOT, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Can I add something real quick that's been driving me crazy through all of these discussions? I'm privy to information from someone, and I didn't hear it myself, but I'm privy to information that the previous zoning director and the previous city manager of Douglas never designed this as part of the Blue Star Trail. The Blue Star Trail is completely and totally not responsible for this mess. The reason they designed that from him through secondhand information was, quote unquote, it was a calming measure, purposely to slow traffic down. That they decided that for their city purposes, that the city of Douglas thought that people drove too fast through downtown Douglas, or through Blue Star.
That's not
on
true,
Douglas.
and I've been on that council for 4 years, and I can tell you that is not true.
That's not what I
It was about getting a trail through. We believe we're progressive, we believe in trails.
Brian Kirkpatrick
And we all.
originally
Okay, all right.
I'm not,
designed that
Okay.
as a calming measure.
That's enough. That discussion's over. That's all water over the dam.
Yeah, that's my point, it's done. Why are we I'm
Well,
not being defensive,
Because
it's
there's
done.
a safety issue. That's why we're talking about
I'll
it.
tell you, Kathy, one of the reasons I think it's important to at least have this discussion, even if this is the only discussion we have. If 3 years from now, some kid, as happened whenever in the last week or so, gets locked in a car in 90-plus degree weather, and the fire department gets the call for that, and it's on a holiday weekend when all the lanes are full, and we're, pick a number, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds late getting to them, and that kid croaks, somebody, some lawyer somewhere is going to say, did you even look at this? Did you even talk about the risk? I repeat myself, take me at my word or consider me a liar. I have no fix for this. and I have no recommended fix for it. And as to being an opponent, which I'm routinely labeled as an opponent of the bike trail, that is patently false, and I can demonstrate it because every time I have made a public comment on the bike trail, it has been related, I've violated my rules.
Yeah, you said trail.
Every time on that subject, it only concerns with specifics of an individual plan that I might take issue with. Carmichael, I gave him a ride through to look at a route as a favor, to try and break a log jam over a year.
Where does it start and stop? Lake Street's 2 lanes, talk about safety, getting trucks there, you can't even ride. There's safety issues everywhere. I'm not saying
But
create them on
there's
purpose,
safety,
but
but-
you work with them and around them, and I don't know, is 5:19 was a good response time? You just reported it. Is it gonna be 5:25 or 5:35? You can use your drama of one kid dies, but you know, what are other departments? Maybe their response times are 7 or 8 minutes. How far do you go not to progress? I'm just saying, there's gotta be compromises. That's all I'm saying. This drama stuff is getting to me.
Kathy, I don't have any drama. Lake Street is horrible, but that's what we're given. This, we had 4 lanes, and this is what it turned into. And I don't have any problem with the trail. I mean, let's call it a non-motorized trail. I think it's great. I don't have a problem with it. I just have a problem taking 4 lanes and putting it into this. And I think, and the other thing I'll say about it, the workmanship that whoever they paid to do this was shoddy, and it still is. There's curbs falling apart. So.
It's not the Blue Star Trail.
Oh, I agree. It's not your fault. It's.
Okay,
Gotten off track.
we've gotten off track. There is a safety issue. I mean, I think
It's up to Greg and his crew to take care of
and
it.
as soon as Saugatuck comes up with an answer, I'm sure they will bring it to the fire department for their weigh-in. This conversation, as far as Saugatuck goes, is way ahead of schedule because we haven't decided yet how we're gonna handle this. And, I don't know what to tell you. I'm one of 7. I never asked for this to be put on the agenda. I never asked, you're smiling, John Adams, I never asked for this to be put on the agenda at all. My biggest wish is public safety. I don't know how painting lines on a road makes it safe, but that's my issue, and it'll be solved in council, not at this board meeting. So.
But our job as board members of this fire department is the safety of our
And that's exactly right.
And we're gonna listen to these guys, and that's what our due diligence, and we are here for them.
That doesn't decide on the trail.
Final comment.
You can do that during public comment. So, are we finished with this discussion now?
As far as I'm concerned.
I think you can all see there is an issue. I mean, there's an issue. But
It doesn't mean everyone agrees there's an issue, but our chief thinks there's an issue. So as a board, we think there's an issue, in my opinion. So, if everyone thinks that's fine, then.
The chief decides safety, that's all.
Yep. I agree.
His people, that's it, not us.
There's experts for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
all right,
Move on.
we're moving on. So, ISO, audit summary?
Just want to let the board know that we're going through an, called a survey for ISO for property classification ratings, which ultimately has an impact on all our insurance premiums, including mine. The goal is to get a low number. We are currently at 5. We're doing our best to
Didn't we used to be
keep that 5 or get a 4.
Didn't we used to be a 4?
from what?
Numbers are from 10 to 1. For example, you take a town in the south, they're a 9-10. So to get a 5 was results of great work by Chief Block and the prior fire board. So something that's occupied a lot of our time Fortunately, we have a great database system that was used for ISO. We're waiting for some information from the water department. The survey takes place Wednesday, and it is the priority other than emergency response, and it's been very time-consuming and challenging. Staff's put a lot of time into it, ISO. So, happens about I was on the job as chief for 2 weeks when surveyor came in and said, I want all your records, which is customary. So,
You want to speak more to the water issue or not? Water supply issue? Don't have to.
so we have everything, but I think some of the water supply information was delivered this morning. Hadn't had time to review that. We don't have time tomorrow, so it's going to have to be Wednesday morning. So, to my disappointment, we did not get that in time. And I am acknowledging to the board that not real happy about that. So, with that said, we'll hope for the best and do our best to get a good rating with ISO.
Okay, moving on, we have correspondence, there's a thank you note.
Venetian 4th of July, one of the things I do, that's a long day for me. A lot of inspections on tents, facilities, barge, fireworks, and subsequent standby. One of the problems I had was a lot of blocked roads. One of them was a road, I was going to the boat to stay on the boat going down Lucy Water Street, and there's a man down in the street, literally in the middle of the street. Medical situation, another patient, Kyle, one of my lieutenants, we dispatched first responders for medical treatment, and we looked, and as you know, that street there is Newnham Street, and there's no way to get in there. So, my lieutenant and I kind of noted it. I had 3 blocked areas and notified the city. They were on it immediately. So this is a thank you letter. Chief Janik, I want to thank you for your action concerning the parking situation on Newnham Street during the busy season. For years, we have been concerned about the possibility of a fire or any type of emergency that would require a large vehicle. I also would like to compliment your staff. In July, we witnessed an accident on Lucy Street where a man fell in the street when his friend tried to help. He broke his bone in his hand. We arrived within minutes. They were professional and well-trained. This was all part of the community risk reduction. We can't get to you, we can't help you. Coral Gables was blocked. The end of Butler Street was blocked. I talked to the county, they came down to help me clear out Coral Gables. So that is a function of community risk reduction. Fortunately, it takes some of us, we have to drive around and look at these areas and evaluate them, because they can change in an hour. But clearly in Newnham Street, there was no way to get in there.
And they basically put no parking signs
Yeah,
all the way
city
down.
responded immediately and put in no parking.
Which was wonderful. It's working together, a good example. So, I just wanted to share that with the board. That's all the correspondence that I have.
There's another letter from Aaron Miller that he wished to have included in the packet, or in the correspondence of the meeting, so I will make sure this is included. Okay, moving on,
You gonna read it, or?
you want me to read it?
Well, or what's
All right,
I don't know.
Chief Janik and Chairperson Verplank, unfortunately, I cannot attend the fire board meeting tomorrow afternoon due to work commitment. I appreciate this email could be entered into the public record as part of the agenda packet. It is not my role as a fire department board member to advocate for or against the Blue Star Trail. In fact, it's not the role of any fire board member to advocate for or against the Blue Star Trail. While we each have personal opinions, those opinions should not be conflated with our official capacities as board members. It is also not the role of the fire board to review design or engineering plans. That's not true. Our role is to provide operational oversight to the fire department, but we as board members are not the safety experts, and the board meeting is not an appropriate forum for substantive reviews with the fire department. Certainly, our qualified experts at the fire department should be consulted on how any particular trail designs might affect response times or other considerations, but they can and should do that without interference from the board. Overall, the fire department and the fire board should not be used as pawns or platforms in political or personal debates. Whether or not it was intended, that is the perception leading up to this board meeting, which has created an unnecessary burden on our fire department personnel and inappropriate expectations of the fire board. Reviews about the Blue Star Trail design should happen in working meetings between the trail designers, our fire department experts, and the Saugatuck city officials. And while the department should provide constructive input, ultimately the trail is the city's decision, not the fire department's or the fire board's. I apologize for not being in attendance at this meeting. And I think we covered a lot of that. Okay, public comment, John?
I think that letter said it very well, so I withdraw my request.
All right, anybody else?
Yeah, I will speak. I am basically, and you say this isn't the forum to talk about it, but apparently it is, I'm basically disgusted. I have lived, I said this at a Saugatuck City Council meeting several months, going on years ago.
Can you say who you are?
Jeffrey Bianchi.
Okay,
I live
thank
in
you.
Douglas. I have lived in Dallas, Minneapolis, Washington DC, New York City, Boston, and Atlanta, all of which have extensive trail systems. Crossing streets that make Blue Star Highway and Lake Street look like a picnic. So I do not understand why you all can't figure this out. And Chief Janik, I have ultimate great respect for you, and I do think that your decision and your feedback in terms of the safety of the trail is paramount, but I also think that we're looking at situations that are like, I'm sorry to be a smart aleck, but should I wear a life vest if I take a bath because I might have a stroke? You're looking at situations that just are so infinitesimally small. I've lived here 13 years. I've never seen the bridge backed up bumper to bumper. I just don't get it, and I can't understand why the fire department, the fire board, and the city of Saugatuck can't figure this out. So, I'm disgusted. That's all.
Dick?
Dick Boston, Saugatuck Township. I appreciate the concerns that have been voiced on both parts here, but I do disagree with one statement I heard somebody made here, that they said, well, your concern as a board is the safety of your firemen. That is a concern of yours, but you are a public safety operation. The Blue Star, right now as it exists, whether it be the Douglas portion, whether it be part of the bridge, whether it be at Lake Street, is not the safest portion of that road around. We invite tourists to come here who aren't aware of their surroundings all the time. You see it all the time when you're downtown Saugatuck, you know, people crossing the road and, you know, they're not even looking, you know, at traffic either way. So we have to design what's happening here to be the most obvious, the safest possible that we can. And one of the ultimate goals of a bike trail is to make for safe pedestrian, biking, family, strollers, runners, because they're there. We invite them into our town to come here. When we don't have crosswalks, when we don't have streetlights, when we don't have any traffic control on that stretch of the road, which astounds me that we don't. I applaud the fact that Douglas actually did want to slow traffic down. That was a good thing. I do believe that portion needs to be fixed where people can understand what is there and why it's there. And I think there's ways to do that. But also I see the plan that the Blue Star Trail people are doing, they're trying to help fix that. They're trying to straighten things out so that people don't all of a sudden drive onto the bike path or get out of the, you know. And I know the fire department knows what people do when they come up behind them with their things going. But it's not just that, you know, few minutes safety, it's the safety of everybody there, the safety of everybody who uses that road. So we can't be so myopic that we just look at it in one way. We've got to get from point A to point B the fastest way we can. We want to make the whole situation safe, so you're not having to go there and pick up some poor child who's been hit on a bicycle because that intersection is so badly done right now. So I hope we can work this all out.
Anybody else?
I guess I will too then. I agree that...
Your name, please?
Sorry, I apologize. Chuck Myers, I live in Saugatuck Township, so, and I completely agree. Chief Janik is one of my favorite people in town. We're so lucky to have him. Whatever he says goes, as far as I'm concerned. But I think the comments that the fire board is only there to protect the firemen is false. You're there to protect us, too. And the incident that happened where the guy was riding his bike down that bike path and came head-to-head with a police cruiser screaming through there, that's a terrifying situation, and we should all be terrified by that. There are no signs or anything there that say, hey, by the way, if you're riding your bike here, we're using this as an emergency vehicle access lane too. We're lucky somebody didn't get killed. And I doubt anybody wants that to happen. I certainly wouldn't want to have to live with that the rest of my life. I drive that stretch more often than probably anybody except for the first responders in this room. But I'm delivering pizzas, I'm not delivering human bodies, and it's a disaster. The way that was done was just horrifically done. It's a safety issue. It's going to be a safety issue. I'm all for the trail. I think the trail is fantastic. I'm appalled that we've had to go 4 years without Saugatuck being able to make their freaking mind up about how to handle the intersection at Lake Street. Lake Street is a disaster. That intersection has always been unsafe. It's going to be unsafe. It's not a question of what will happen if bikes use that intersection. They're using it right now, and they're using it very unsafely. And they're using this horrible section right now until we fix that section. There are ways to handle it. You can Google search bike trail markings and see 400 examples in 30 seconds of a better way to handle that section of road than what's being handled now. You cannot have a situation where bikes are this much in conflict with emergency vehicles, and they have to get across that bridge, and they will get across that bridge. You know how I see people getting across the bridge on bikes right now? They ride down the center left turn lane in the middle of traffic. What's going to happen if they meet a police cruiser? What if they meet one of your fire trucks? They're balancing. I see little kids on bikes balancing like this, riding up on that sidewalk with a 6-inch curb they're going to fall off in front of a car. It's not a question of should we do something. We have to do something. And every day the Saugatuck Council delays is another day that this takes place. Another day that the Douglas City Council sits and says, well, it's already done, it's MDOT, it's all MDOT's fault. It's not MDOT's fault. It's the City of Douglas's fault. They voted to allow that to happen. They put that in. The state of Michigan did a horrible job, and it needs to be fixed. And to say, well, it's a 2-year contract, we can't do anything until the 2-year contract is up, is not taking safety into account. We all live here. We all live in all 3 communities. The Saugatuck thinks one thing, and Douglas thinks another thing, and the township, we just solved one of the issues. Chief Janik noted that we got the township back in line, and we got them back into having the same fire code. So we need to do this. Just because somebody's mad because we didn't ask some council, Mother May I first, and put it on the side that they wanted it instead of the other side, is ridiculous. It's putting public safety at jeopardy. Bike paths are good, they're necessary, and we need to fix this.
Anybody else?
I thought I'd just tell you my name and where I'm from since I spoke out of order. Barbara Lucier, and I actually live in Saugatuck. And I've come to the council, I think, twice to talk about the bike path. And this is not a joke, really, but I am going to throw it out. I used to wonder if the path would be built when I was still young enough to ride it. I'm really beginning to doubt it.
I guess I have to let the audience know that I'm the one that encouraged transiting the Blue Star non-motorized trail in the event we couldn't get through. No, that's on me. That was not that deputy's fault. I saw it as at the time, a viable option to get from point A to point B. I was not in favor of going down Main Street, down Center Street to bypass congestion on Blue Star. So if I had the right timing, and went in by Swing Bridge, go down it. At the time, nobody's gonna use it. But, here's the deal, it only takes a couple of people to use it to become a hazard. So I guess it's important for you to know that encouragement to drive down that non-motorized trail is from right here, from me. We will no longer do that. It is forbidden. I had to change that because more and more people are using it. I was at a public meeting where somebody said 200 people an hour use it. It was not disputed. Based on that, we will not drive down a non-motorized trail. So we're going to find a way. I got a lot of information this morning, and when things come about, we'll take a look at it. We got an auto turn analysis. Friends of the Blue Star got us a great auto turn. I'll take a look at it. Shows positionings, projected. We're going to figure it out. Also, we're going to talk to MDOT. And I know friends have done a good job talking to MDOT. We're going to see if we can change their mind. We've done it before. We may not be able to. But it's not done yet, folks. And I hear both sides. And I'm not married to anybody here. And if I fall on the sword on this, I'll be fall on the sword. So, but please, give me a chance to let my staff take a look at this and sort it out. This is not the time for me to be looking at this. I mean, I got hammered all weekend. And I can't devote the time it requires to sort this out just yet. And I know there's grant requirements. So give me a couple of weeks. I want to meet with all my staff to get input on this and make educated, not knee-jerk reactions and non-emotional reactions. What's best for the community. Understand, Dick, well, point, Eric's thinking of us. We all know here, this board encompasses public safety. That's you, me, and the visitor. It's just all the public. So give us a chance, okay? That's all I have to say.
Any other public comment?
John, I'm Clark Carmichael, I'm Vice President for the Blue Star Trail. Greg, we hear you. We also would like to be very involved with your staff and talk to you about it. We've never had the opportunity to present it fully. We're looking into a number of things that you discussed as well. So we would definitely like to be working with you on coming up with the best approach.
Thank you. Thank you.
Elliot, did you have a comment?
Sure. I'm Elliot Stern. Chief, you may remember me, I work for you. There was a comment made earlier that I'd like to address, and that was that this person has never seen the bridge blocked in both directions. I can think of at least half a dozen times where that's happened because we've had accidents on the highway and we've had to reroute all traffic off the highway down Blue Star. And that amounts to about 1,500 vehicles per hour. And I want to tell you, it backs up from the 36 to the 41. And they go at a walking pace. And if that's in both directions, I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe we get fire department bicycles or something, but there is no way when we've got traffic off that highway, a major highway, all routed down to Blue Star. It gets blocked, it really does.
Mr. Mantles, did you have a comment?
Sure. Chris Manos, I'm the Deputy Chief of the Fire District and also Township President. Very much support the bike trail as I have young kids as well. I guess there was a comment made about Park Street and Ferry Street. There's numerous subdivisions in the district that don't have hydrants and numerous subdivisions we don't have adequate access to because they weren't built to the ordinances at the time. We're stuck with those as they are currently, and we do our best to provide adequate protection as they are. That being said, going forward, every new development, we do our best in the plan review process up to the construction process to make sure we don't run into that again. So that these new subdivisions are built with adequate roads, adequate turnarounds, adequate water supply, so we can provide the best protection possible for all the members of the district. So I would relate that to the same as the Blue Star Trail. Yes, Park Street is what it is. It's a two-lane road that doesn't have curbs on either side and allows cars to pull into the grass where this may not. However, going forward, we have the opportunity now to make sure this is done right for everyone, both for the bikers and for the fire district and for the public. So even if that means it takes twice as long to review it correctly, run sample models through the engineers as we're doing, that we're committed to work together to make sure it's done well for everyone. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to comment? Okay, moving on. Fire board comments. Kathy, do you have anything?
I think I said my piece, but first of all, I just want to say I did not talk to Aaron, whose statement you read, at all. We sounded alike, and I had no conversations with him whatsoever, so he wrote that on his own. Thank you. Second, I think I don't have the answers to this either, and I'm also going to go on record that we know Douglas made some mistakes on our plan, and there's no question about that. One of the reasons, however, we made the mistake was because the Saugatuck people would not meet halfway, and our plans to go across the bridge were rejected, and we had to compromise to get our part done at all. Not making an excuse, it's just the way it was. Now it's 3 years ago, and it's still more not happening. And it's neither here nor there. I don't care if it gets done or not. I'm talking about the principles of this board. But I do think this board's about safety of everyone, and we're picking on little tiny pieces of what Douglas did or didn't do when there's lots of unsafe things around Lake Street and other parts. So let's just do the whole safety thing. Let's just stick with that. Let's make, like Chris said, let's work together and get the whole darn thing safe. And Douglas, I don't know, but I assume they're willing to lose some money on what they did to reconfigure some things. That's all I can say. I'll fight for that as a council member, if that's what it comes down to. So, and I think the rest of the board would agree. On the Douglas side, we'll change things. That's all I can say.
I've got nothing.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about our last meeting when we did re-adopt the International Fire Code. We were very happy to do that. That was one of our main missions when we decided to do the recall. It was one of the main reasons. Also, another reason was the ambulance AMR that we quit participating in. We also rejoined that, and we're very proud to bring both those back to the township.
Thank you.
I just want to say, Greg, thank you. I did misspeak and say our only job is the safety of the fire department, it's the safety of all the community. You know, that's why we're big on community risk reduction, and we are fiduciary to our constituents. And I think the non-motorized trail, I like to call it, is a great thing, and that's personal, but just go from there.
I'll just quickly reiterate my apologies for sending people down the wrong angle. Having said that, I think the discussion here, based on the information presented, was a discussion worth having.
And I will say, and I know this is just stupid for me to say, but I am not against bicycle trails. I want this trail to be safe for Saugatuck. I want it to be safe for the children who ride on it. I want it to be safe for the person over on Park Street that's having a heart attack. and the fire department can't get to them. I want everybody to be safe. And this is a huge concern of Saugatuck City Council. Everyone needs to be safe. So that's all I have to say.
Motion to adjourn.
Could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
No, second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.